In a land where the sun refuses to set for months, where ancient forests stretch endlessly toward horizons that shimmer with ethereal light, and where ice sculptures the size of cathedrals rise from crystalline waters, Sweden doesn't just showcase nature's artistry, it redefines what beauty means entirely. This is a country where Vikings once carved their legends into stone, where modern architects have learned to dance with light itself, and where the aurora borealis paints the sky in colors that cameras struggle to capture. From archipelagos that scatter like emerald jewels across sapphire seas to mountains that pierce clouds with primordial authority, Sweden holds secrets that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about natural wonder. Number 12. The Ice Hotel of Jukkasjärvi. Deep in Swedish Lapland, 200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, something impossible happens every winter. As temperatures plummet to -40 degrees Celsius, artists and architects gather in the tiny village of Jukkasjärvi to perform what might be the world's most ephemeral act of creation, building an entire hotel from ice and snow that will vanish with the spring thaw. The Ice Hotel isn't just accommodation, it's a crystalline cathedral of human ingenuity. Each October, construction begins using ice blocks harvested from the pristine Torn River, each one weighing up to 350 kilograms. These aren't, ordinary ice cubes. This is ice so pure it's virtually transparent, formed slowly in the Arctic waters to create a density that rivals glass. The walls rise in perfect geometric harmony, creating chambers that glow with an otherworldly blue luminescence when lit from within. But here's where it becomes truly magnificent. Every room is a unique work of art. International sculptors compete for the privilege of carving entire suites from solid ice, creating everything from intricate chandeliers to life-sized furniture that seems to emerge organically from the walls themselves. The chapel, with its soaring ice arches and altar carved from a single block, has hosted over 150 weddings, where couples exchange vows surrounded by walls that literally sparkle. The science behind this frozen marvel is equally fascinating. The hotel maintains its structural integrity through a carefully controlled internal temperature of -5 to -8 degrees Celsius, cold enough to preserve the ice, but warm enough that visitors can sleep comfortably in specially designed thermal sleeping bags. The architecture utilizes the natural insulating properties of snow, with walls up to 2 meters thick that create a surprisingly stable internal environment. Walking through the Ice Hotel is like exploring the inside of a glacier. Light refracts through the ice walls, creating an ethereal atmosphere where blue and white dance in endless combinations. The famous ice bar serves vodka in glasses carved from ice, while the corridors echo with the subtle sounds of the structure settling, a constant reminder that you're inside something both ancient and impossibly temporary. When spring arrives, the Ice Hotel doesn't just melt, it returns to the river from which it came, completing a cycle of creation and dissolution that has been repeated for over 3 decades. Its architecture as philosophy, a meditation on impermanence built from the most fundamental element of the Arctic landscape. Number 11, Kebnekaise Mountain. Rising like a giant's crown from the wilderness of Lapland, Kebnekaise stands as Sweden's highest peak at 2,097 meters above sea level. Though, interestingly enough, this measurement changes each year as its glacier-capped summit responds to climate fluctuations. This isn't just Sweden's tallest mountain, it's a living monument to the raw geological forces that shaped Scandinavia, where ancient bedrock meets modern glaciology in a display of natural drama that leaves mountaineers and scientists equally awestruck. The mountain's name comes from the Sami word Kebnekaise, meaning the cauldron's crest, and honestly, one glimpse of its knife-edge ridges and precipitous faces explains why. Kebnekaise isn't a gentle giant, it's a fortress of rock and ice that's been carved by millennia of glacial action into something resembling a massive Gothic cathedral. The southern summit, capped by a small glacier, presents climbers with technical challenges that really demand respect, while the northern peak offers a slightly more accessible route that still requires serious mountaineering skills. But Kebnekaise's true magnificence becomes apparent from a distance. The mountain dominates the horizon for dozens of kilometers in every direction, its pyramid-shaped silhouette unmistakable against the Arctic sky. During the brief summer months, when the midnight sun circles endlessly overhead, the peak glows with an almost supernatural radiance, its snowfields catching and reflecting light in ways that create an ever-changing palette of gold, pink, and orange. The mountain sits within Abisko National Park, surrounded by a landscape that seems designed by nature's most ambitious architect. Ancient glacial valleys radiate outward like spokes from a wheel, each one carved with surgical precision by ice flows that existed when mastodons still roamed the earth. The approach to Kebnekaise takes you through terrain that shifts from subarctic forest to alpine tundra to lunar-like rocky slopes, each ecosystem representing a different chapter in the mountain's geological story. Perhaps most fascinating is Kebnekaise's role as a climate barometer. Swedish scientists have been measuring the height of its southern summit since the early 1800s, creating one of the world's longest continuous records of glacial change. The mountain's glacier has been retreating steadily, and in recent years, the northern rocky summit has occasionally measured higher than the glacier-capped southern peak, a stark reminder of how even Sweden's mightiest landmark responds to our changing climate. Standing in its shadow, you're not just witnessing natural beauty, you're observing environmental history being written in real time. Number 10. Gammelstad Churchtown. In the far north of Sweden, just outside the city of Luleå, stands one of the most remarkable architectural achievements in Scandinavian history. A medieval church town so perfectly preserved it seems frozen in time. Gammelstad isn't just a tourist attraction, it's the last surviving example of an urban planning concept that once dotted northern Sweden, a solution to the harsh realities of Arctic life that created one of Europe's most unique cultural landscapes. The heart of Gammelstad is its stone church, built in the 15th century when this was the northern frontier of Christian civilization. But surrounding this Gothic masterpiece is something extraordinary. 424 wooden houses arranged in neat rows, painted in traditional red ochre with white trim, creating a visual symphony of color against the subarctic landscape. These aren't ancient ruins, they're living buildings, maintained and used exactly as they were centuries ago, when the long journey to Sunday worship required an overnight stay. The genius of Gammelstad lies in its solution to a uniquely northern problem. In medieval Sweden, church attendance was mandatory, but parishioners often lived dozens of kilometers away, making the journey to Sunday service a multi-day expedition in winter. The solution was brilliant. Build an entire town around the church, with small wooden houses that families would own and occupy only during religious holidays and festivals. The result was a community that came alive periodically throughout the year, creating a rhythm of habitation unlike anywhere else in the world. Walking through Gammelstad today is like stepping into a living museum where every detail has been preserved with microscopic precision. The wooden houses, built using traditional techniques that require no nails, demonstrate construction methods that have remained unchanged for over 500 years. The interiors, with their traditional furnishings and wood-burning stoves, show how northern Swedes lived through the harsh Arctic winters when survival depended on craftsmanship and community cooperation. But Gammelstad's true magic becomes apparent during its festivals, when the church town comes alive as it has for centuries. During midsummer celebrations, traditional Swedish folk music echoes between the wooden walls while locals dressed in period costume demonstrate ancient crafts. The air fills with the scent of traditional foods cooked over wood fires, and for a few precious days, the 21st century seems to disappear entirely. The church itself, with its medieval frescoes and carved wooden altarpiece, represents some of the finest ecclesiastical art in Northern Europe. But it's the combination of sacred and secular, of individual and community, of preservation and living tradition, that makes Gammelstad truly extraordinary. This isn't just architecture, it's anthropology made visible, a window into how humans adapted to one of Earth's most challenging environments while maintaining their cultural identity. Number 9. Stora Sjöfallet National Park. In the heart of Swedish Lapland, where ancient mountains meet endless wilderness, Stora Sjöfallet National Park unfolds like nature's own masterpiece gallery. This isn't just protected wilderness, it's a 127,000-hectare testament to the raw power of geological time, where waterfalls thunder through primordial valleys and mountains that witness the birth of continents still stand sentinel over landscapes that seem to belong to another planet entirely. The park's crown jewel is the Great Lake Falls, a cascade system so massive and thunderous that the sound can be heard from kilometers away. But calling it simply a waterfall is like calling the Grand Canyon a ditch. Stora Sjöfallet is a geological symphony where the Stora Lule River plunges through a series of rapids, cataracts and cascades that have been carving their way through bedrock for millions of years. The main falls drop 40 meters in a display of liquid fury that sends mist clouds spiraling hundreds of feet into the air, creating rainbows that dance through the spray like fleeting spirits. What makes this landscape truly extraordinary is its age. The mountains surrounding the falls are among the oldest on Earth, formed during the Precambrian era when life on our planet consisted of nothing more than primitive microorganisms. These peaks have watched continents drift, ice ages come and go, and forests rise and fall in cycles spanning millions of years. Standing among them is like standing in Earth's memory bank, where every boulder and cliff face tells stories that predate human civilization by unfathomable spans of time. The park exists in a state of perpetual seasonal transformation that borders on the surreal. During the brief Arctic summer, the midnight sun creates a landscape where time seems suspended. Waterfalls glow with golden light at what should be midnight, while wildflowers bloom in meadows that will be buried under meters of snow in just a few months. The contrast is so extreme it seems like witnessing two completely different planets occupying the same space. But perhaps most remarkable is the park's ecosystem diversity compressed into such extreme conditions. Ancient Scots pines, some over 700 years old, cling to rocky slopes with root systems that have learned to extract nutrients from virtually solid granite. Arctic foxes and golden eagles hunt across terrain that shifts from lush river valleys to alpine tundra to rocky summits within the span of just a few kilometers. Rare orchids bloom in hidden valleys while reindeer traverse migration routes their ancestors have followed for thousands of years. The geological drama continues beneath the surface, where the bedrock tells the story of mountain-building events so violent they literally folded continents. The region's minerals, including some of the purest iron ore deposits on Earth, were formed under pressures and temperatures that, honestly, boggle the imagination, creating a landscape where every stone is a fragment of planetary history made visible. Number 8. Stockholm Archipelago. Imagine if nature had taken 50,000 islands, scattered them across sapphire waters like a handful of emeralds, and then spent thousands of years polishing each one into its own unique masterpiece. This is the Stockholm Archipelago, a maze of granite islands, hidden coves, and sheltered channels that stretches from Sweden's capital into the Baltic Sea, like a maritime symphony composed entirely of rock, water, and light. The archipelago isn't just a collection of islands. It's a geological wonder born from one of the most dramatic transformation events in Earth's recent history. When the massive ice sheets of the last ice age retreated 10,000 years ago, they left behind a landscape that was literally rising from the sea. The phenomenon, called post-glacial rebound, continues today, with the land rising approximately 5 millimeters per year. This means the archipelago is constantly changing, with new islands emerging while others shift and transform, creating a landscape that's never quite the same from one decade to the next. The visual impact is nothing short of breathtaking. Smooth granite domes, polished to mirror-like perfection by glacial action, rise directly from waters so clear you can see the rocky bottom 10 meters down. These aren't tropical beaches. This is something entirely different, where pink granite glows in the low Nordic light and ancient bedrock creates natural sculptures that would be the envy of any human artist. During summer, the rocks warm in the endless daylight, creating perfect platforms for swimming in waters that, despite their northern latitude, can reach surprisingly comfortable temperatures. Each island tells its own story. Some are barely larger than a tennis court, supporting nothing more than a few hardy pines and a patch of wild berries. Others stretch for kilometers, housing traditional red wooden houses that have sheltered fishing families for generations. The larger islands feature entire communities connected by passenger ferries and bridges, where modern Swedes maintain summer houses that represent the pinnacle of Scandinavian design, integrated seamlessly into natural settings. The archipelago's human history is equally compelling. These waters have been highways for Vikings, medieval merchants, and modern sailors, with hidden harbors that once sheltered everything from fishing boats to warships. During Sweden's naval heyday, these islands bristled with fortifications, and today, abandoned gun emplacements and coastal fortresses add layers of historical intrigue to landscapes already rich with natural drama. But it's the light that makes the Stockholm Archipelago truly magical. The combination of granite, water, and Nordic sky creates illumination effects that seem to defy physics. During the white nights of summer, the entire archipelago glows with an ethereal luminescence that turns every sunset into an hours-long spectacle of gold, pink, and purple, reflected infinitely across the water's surface. Number 7. Laponia World Heritage Area. In the vast wilderness of northern Sweden, where human footprints are measured in centuries rather than years, lies Laponia, a 940,000-hectare expanse of untouched landscape that represents one of Earth's last great wildernesses. This isn't just a national park, it's a living museum of how our planet looked before human civilization began reshaping its surface, a place where natural processes continue unchanged and indigenous culture maintains connections to the land that stretch back to the end of the Ice Age. Laponia encompasses 4 national parks, but thinking of it as separate units misses the point entirely. This is ecosystem-level conservation, where entire watersheds, migration routes and geological systems are preserved as functioning wholes. The landscape shifts from primordial forests where some trees were already ancient when Vikings first set sail, to alpine peaks that scrape the Arctic sky, to vast plateaus where reindeer move in migrations that have followed the same routes for millennia. The geological story here is written in stone and ice with such clarity it's like reading Earth's autobiography. The mountains in Laponia are among the oldest on the planet. Their bedrock formed during the Precambrian era when the only life on Earth existed in the oceans. These peaks have witnessed every major extinction event, survived ice ages that buried them under kilometers of ice, and emerged to become the spine of Scandinavia. Standing among them is like touching the planet's memory, where every cliff face and boulder field represents chapters in a story that spans billions of years. But Laponia's significance extends far beyond geology. This is one of the last places in Europe where indigenous culture maintains its connection to landscape in ways that predate agriculture, where the Sami people continue traditional reindeer herding practices that represent perhaps the oldest continuous relationship between humans and semi-domesticated animals on Earth. The seasonal migrations that move thousands of reindeer across hundreds of kilometers follow routes that have been traveled for over 7,000 years, creating a living link to humanity's ancient past. The biodiversity here exists at scales that are difficult to comprehend. Old-growth forests stretch unbroken for dozens of kilometers, supporting ecosystem relationships so complex that scientists are still discovering new species. Brown bears move through territories that encompass hundreds of square kilometers, while golden eagles soar above landscapes where their prey species exist in population balances that haven't been disrupted by human intervention. Perhaps most remarkably, Laponia represents seasonal transformation on an almost cosmic scale. During the brief Arctic summer, the midnight sun creates a landscape where photosynthesis continues 24 hours a day, triggering explosive growth that must accomplish an entire year's worth of biological activity in just a few months. Wildflowers bloom in displays so intense they're visible from aircraft, while insect hatches create feeding frenzies that support massive bird populations. Then, winter arrives with a totality that transforms the same landscape into something resembling an alien planet, where temperatures drop to -40 degrees Celsius and the aurora borealis dances across skies that remain dark for months at a time. Number 6. Visby Medieval City. On the Baltic island of Gotland, rising from limestone cliffs like something conjured from a medieval fairy tale, stands Visby, the most perfectly preserved Hanseatic city in northern Europe. But you know, calling it simply well-preserved kind of misses the extraordinary truth. Visby isn't a reconstruction or restoration. It's a genuine medieval city that has survived virtually intact for over 700 years, where every cobblestone street and Gothic spire represents an unbroken link to an era when this small island was one of the wealthiest trading centers in the known world. The city's medieval wall, stretching 3.4 kilometers around the old town, isn't just impressive, it's really unprecedented. Built between 1270 and 1288, this limestone fortification includes 36 towers and represents medieval military architecture at its most sophisticated. But what makes it truly remarkable is its completeness. While other European cities saw their walls demolished to make room for modern expansion, Visby's defenses remain virtually untouched, creating an intact medieval cityscape that exists nowhere else in Scandinavia. Walking through Visby's streets is like stepping through a portal into the 13th century. The narrow cobblestone lanes follow their original medieval paths, winding between merchant houses built from local limestone that glows with warm honey colors in the Baltic light. These aren't museum pieces, they're living buildings where modern Swedes conduct daily life within walls that once sheltered some of medieval Europe's wealthiest merchants. The Gothic windows, stepped gables and ornate doorways represent architectural techniques that were cutting-edge technology when constructed, demonstrating craftsmanship that, honestly, modern builders still struggle to replicate. The ruins of Visby's medieval churches tell an even more dramatic story. At its peak, this small city supported 17 churches reflecting wealth and religious devotion that rivaled much larger European capitals. Today, the ruins of St. Nikolai, St. Olaf and other Gothic churches create a haunting landscape where soaring stone arches frame views of the Baltic Sea. These aren't just ruins, they're sublime examples of medieval architecture where master stonemasons created spaces designed to inspire awe and devotion through pure structural beauty. And just when you think it can't get better, wait until you see number 1. But Visby's true magnificence becomes apparent when you understand its historical significance. During the 12th and 13th centuries, this was the unofficial capital of the Baltic Sea, where German merchants of the Hanseatic League established trading networks that connected Russia to Western Europe. Ships loaded with furs, amber, honey, and wax from the northern forest exchanged their cargoes for cloth, wine, and manufactured goods from the south. The wealth generated by this trade built not just impressive architecture but one of medieval Europe's most sophisticated urban cultures. The city's limestone geology adds another layer of fascination. Gotland sits on a foundation of coral reef limestone formed when this region lay under tropical seas 400 million years ago. The stone used to build Visby contains fossilized remains of ancient sea creatures, making every wall a paleontological display where medieval craftsmanship meets prehistoric life. During summer evenings, when the low Baltic light strikes the limestone walls, the entire city glows with an otherworldly luminescence that makes its medieval origins seem almost mystical. If this journey has already left you breathless, hit that subscribe button, we're only halfway through. In the far north of Sweden, beyond the reach of light pollution and at the edge of the inhabitable world, Abisko National Park occupies a unique position that makes it one of Earth's premier destinations for witnessing the aurora borealis. But Abisko isn't just about the northern lights. It's a landscape where Arctic phenomena converge to create natural displays that seem to defy the laws of physics, where the interaction between solar wind and Earth's magnetic field becomes visible in ways that transform the night sky into a living canvas of color and motion. The park's location creates what scientists call a blue hole, a unique meteorological phenomenon where the surrounding mountains create a rain shadow effect that results in clearer skies than anywhere else in the region. This isn't just good luck, it's geography and physics combining to create optimal viewing conditions for celestial events. The statistical probability of seeing the aurora borealis from Abisko is higher than virtually anywhere else on Earth at similar latitudes, making it a destination where natural wonder operates on a schedule that visitors can actually rely upon. The Aurora Sky Station, accessible only by chairlift up Mount Nuolja, sits 900 meters above sea level in a position that eliminates virtually all atmospheric interference. From this vantage point, the aurora doesn't just appear in the sky, it surrounds you, creating 360-degree displays where ribbons of green, purple and blue light dance across the entire visible universe. The phenomenon occurs when charged particles from the sun interact with gases in Earth's upper atmosphere, creating light displays that operate on scales both cosmic and intimate, where events occurring 93 million miles away become visible as curtains of light that seem close enough to touch. But Abisko's daytime landscape is equally extraordinary. The park encompasses the Tornatrask Valley, where ancient geological forces created a dramatic canyon system that channels Arctic winds in ways that moderate the extreme cold. The result is a microclimate that supports vegetation typically found hundreds of kilometers south, creating ecological diversity that shouldn't exist at this latitude. Rare orchids bloom in hidden valleys while Arctic foxes hunt across terrain that shifts from lush birch forest to alpine tundra within the span of a few hundred meters. The scientific significance of Abisko extends far beyond tourism. The research station here conducts some of the world's most important climate research, using the park's pristine environment to study atmospheric phenomena that affect global weather patterns. The data collected here helps scientists understand everything from ozone depletion to climate change, making Abisko not just a destination for natural beauty, but a laboratory where humanity studies its relationship with planetary systems. During the polar night, when the sun disappears for weeks at a time, Abisko transforms into something resembling an alien landscape. The absence of daylight creates conditions where stars become visible with an intensity impossible in more southern latitudes, where the Milky Way appears as a brilliant river of light stretching across the entire sky. Combined with the aurora borealis, these winter nights create astronomical displays that represent the full scope of cosmic beauty visible from Earth's surface. Number 4. Gotha Canal. Across the heart of Sweden, connecting the North Sea to the Baltic through a liquid highway that took 22 years to complete, the Gotha Canal represents one of the most ambitious engineering projects in Scandinavian history. But, calling it simply a canal misses its true significance. This is a 190-kilometer masterpiece of 19th-century engineering that transformed Sweden's geography, connected isolated communities, and created a transportation network that helped forge the modern Swedish nation. The canal's statistics alone inspire awe: 58 locks that lift ships a total of 91.8 meters above sea level, 5 aqueducts that carry the waterway across valleys and rivers, and countless bridges, harbors, and engineering works that required moving over 7 million cubic meters of earth and rock using nothing more than human labor and horse-drawn equipment. The project employed over 58,000 workers during its construction between 1810 and 1832, creating a feat of logistics and engineering that rivals anything built in the modern era. But the Gotha Canal's true beauty lies in how seamlessly it integrates with Sweden's natural landscape. Rather than imposing a straight line across the countryside, the canal follows the natural contours of the land, incorporating existing lakes and rivers into a system that feels organic rather than artificial. Lake Vänern, which is actually Europe's third largest lake, becomes part of the route, while the canal threads through forests, farmland, and medieval towns in ways that create constantly changing vistas of Swedish countryside. The lock systems represent mechanical artistry at its finest. Each lock chamber, built from precisely cut granite blocks, operates using principles of hydraulic engineering that remain unchanged since construction. Watching a ship navigate through the locks is like witnessing a perfectly choreographed ballet where water, machinery, and human skill combine to overcome the fundamental challenge of moving vessels uphill. The lock keepers, many representing families who have operated the same locks for generations, demonstrate craftsmanship and knowledge that connects the modern world to Sweden's industrial heritage. The canal passes through landscapes that showcase Sweden's geographical diversity in miniature. The western approach winds through the rocky terrain of Västergötland, where ancient fortresses perch on hills overlooking waterways that have been used for transportation since Viking times. The central section crosses the vast agricultural plains of Östergötland, where medieval churches and manor houses reflect centuries of rural prosperity. The eastern approach descends through the forests and lakes of Sörmland toward Stockholm, passing through terrain that represents the geological transition from Sweden's ancient bedrock to the younger sedimentary regions of the south. Perhaps most remarkably, the Gotha Canal continues to operate exactly as originally designed nearly 2 centuries after its completion. Modern pleasure craft and historic steamships navigate the same locks and channels that once carried timber, iron ore, and manufactured goods across the Swedish interior. The engineering principles proved so sound that virtually no major modifications have been required, creating a transportation system that serves as both functional infrastructure and living museum of 19th-century technical achievement. Number 3. Kosterhavet National Park. In the crystal-clear waters off Sweden's west coast, where the North Sea meets the Skagerrak, lies Kosterhavet, Sweden's first marine national park and an underwater wonderland that reveals a completely different face of Scandinavian nature. This isn't the Sweden of forests and mountains. This is a maritime landscape where warm ocean currents create conditions that support marine life typically found hundreds of kilometers south, where coral reefs bloom in Arctic waters and underwater canyons plunge to depths that harbor species found nowhere else on Earth. The coastal islands themselves rise from the sea like ancient granite sculptures, their smooth rock surfaces polished by 10,000 years of wave action into formations that seem designed by abstract artists. But the real wonder lies beneath the surface, where the meeting of different ocean currents creates upwelling patterns that bring nutrient-rich deep water to the surface, supporting marine ecosystems of extraordinary complexity and beauty. The coldwater coral reefs of Kosterhavet represent one of Europe's most significant marine discoveries. These aren't tropical corals. They're species adapted to the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic, creating reef systems that grow slowly over thousands of years in conditions that, honestly, seem hostile to such delicate life forms. The Lophelia pertusa reefs, some rising 35 meters from the seafloor, support biodiversity levels that rival tropical reefs, with over 200 fish species and countless invertebrates creating underwater cities of remarkable complexity. The park's underwater canyons, carved by ancient glacial rivers when sea levels were dramatically lower, create dramatic topography that plunges from shallow coastal waters to depths exceeding 200 meters within the span of just a few kilometers. These submarine valleys channel ocean currents in ways that create unique habitats, where Arctic species coexist with more temperate forms and ecological relationships that exist nowhere else in the world. Above the surface, the coastal islands present a landscape where traditional Swedish fishing culture continues much as it has for centuries. Red wooden fishing huts perch on granite shores where families have drawn their living from the sea for generations. The islands remain car-free, accessible only by passenger ferry, creating communities where the rhythm of life still follows tidal patterns and seasonal fish migrations. The marine life diversity here, honestly, defies expectations for such northern waters. Harbor seals bask on rocky skerries while porpoises hunt in the deeper channels. The bird life includes species rarely seen elsewhere in Sweden, with puffins, guillemots, and other seabirds nesting on cliffs that rise directly from waters clear enough to reveal the seafloor 20 meters below. What makes Kosterhavet truly extraordinary is how it demonstrates the interconnectedness of marine systems. The health of these coral reefs depends on ocean currents that originate thousands of kilometers away, while the fish populations support seabird colonies whose droppings fertilize terrestrial ecosystems on the islands above. It's marine ecology as symphony, where each species plays a part in maintaining the delicate balance that allows such biodiversity to flourish in seemingly hostile northern waters. Number 2. Sarek National Park. In the heart of Swedish Lapland, where civilization ends and true wilderness begins, Sarek National Park sprawls across 197,000 hectares of landscape so pristine and challenging that it remains exactly as it was when the last ice age retreated 10,000 years ago. This isn't a park for casual visitors. Sarek is wilderness in its purest form, where there are no marked trails, no tourist facilities, and no concessions to human comfort. It's a landscape that demands respect and rewards those brave enough to enter with experiences that, honestly, redefine what natural beauty can achieve. Sarek contains Sweden's highest concentration of peaks over 2,000 meters, including 6 of the country's 10 highest summits. But these aren't gentle, rounded mountains. They're sharp-edged titans of granite and gneiss that rise like cathedral spires from valleys carved by glacial action so powerful, it literally resculpted the entire region. The Rapadalen Valley, often called Europe's Grand Canyon, stretches for 35 kilometers between walls that rise over 800 meters straight up from the valley floor, creating a landscape so dramatic it seems designed by geological forces with artistic sensibilities. The park's 100 glaciers represent the largest concentration of ice in Sweden, remnants of the massive ice sheets that once covered all of Scandinavia. These aren't tourist-friendly glaciers with easy access. They're active, dynamic ice flows that continue the work of carving and reshaping the landscape. The sounds they produce, creaking, groaning, and occasionally thundering as house-sized chunks of ice calve into glacial lakes, create a soundtrack of geological processes that have operated unchanged for millennia. Sarek's ecosystem operates on scales that dwarf human comprehension. The park supports the full range of Scandinavian large mammals, including brown bears, wolverines, lynx, and wolves, in population densities that represent what northern Europe looked like before human settlement. The predator-prey relationships here function without human interference, creating natural balances that have been lost in more accessible regions. Watching a golden eagle soar above valleys where its prey species exist in natural abundance is like witnessing ecology as it was meant to function. The plant life demonstrates adaptation to extreme conditions that borders on the miraculous. Arctic willows grow as ground-hugging mats that may be centuries old despite standing only centimeters high, while rare alpine flowers bloom in growing seasons so brief they must complete their entire reproductive cycle in just a few weeks. The contrast between the apparent hostility of the environment and the delicate beauty of the flora creates tension that makes every botanical discovery feel like a minor miracle. Perhaps most remarkably, Sarek exists in a state of seasonal transformation so extreme it creates what are essentially two completely different landscapes occupying the same space. During the brief Arctic summer, valleys that were buried under meters of snow just months earlier explode with wildflower displays so intense they're visible from aircraft. Midnight sun creates growing conditions where photosynthesis continues 24 hours a day, triggering biological activity that must accomplish an entire year's worth of growth in just a few months. Then, winter arrives with a totality that transforms the entire park into something resembling another planet, where temperatures drop to -40 degrees Celsius, and landscapes disappear under snow accumulations that can exceed 4 meters in depth. At the very pinnacle of Sweden's natural wonders stands the high coast, a 100-kilometer stretch of Baltic shoreline where the Earth's most dramatic geological processes have created landscapes that seem to defy the laws of physics. This isn't just scenic coastline, it's the visible result of planetary forces so massive they've been literally lifting an entire region out of the sea for the past 10,000 years, creating cliffs, islands, and coastal formations that represent geology as high art. The high coast owes its existence to one of the most remarkable phenomena in Earth science post-glacial rebound. When the massive ice sheets of the last ice age retreated, they left behind land that had been compressed under ice loads exceeding 3 kilometers in thickness. As this unimaginable weight disappeared, the Earth's crust began to rise, and it's still rising today at a rate of 8 millimeters per year, the fastest rate of land uplift anywhere on the planet. This ongoing geological drama means the high coast is constantly changing, with new islands emerging from the sea while existing cliffs grow taller each year. The visual impact is nothing short of breathtaking. Skullaberget, the region's highest cliff, rises 295 meters directly from the Baltic Sea in a wall of red granite so sheer it seems to violate the laws of gravity. From its summit, the view extends across an archipelago of rocky islands and hidden coves that stretches to the horizon, each formation representing a different chapter in the ongoing story of the Earth rising from the sea. The combination of height, color, and the endless expanse of Baltic waters creates vistas that belong in the realm of fantasy rather than reality. But the high coast's geological drama extends far beyond its dramatic cliffs. The region showcases rock formations that span over 1 billion years of Earth history, from Precambrian bedrock that predates complex life, to glacial deposits that record the advance and retreat of continental ice sheets. Walking along the coast is like traveling through deep time, where every cliff face and boulder beach tells stories of mountain-building events, volcanic activity, and climatic changes that shaped not just Sweden but the entire Baltic region. The ecological significance matches the geological wonder. The ongoing land uplift creates constantly changing habitats where marine environments transition to terrestrial ones within human timescales. Salt marshes become freshwater wetlands, which eventually transform into forests, creating a succession of ecosystems that can be observed in real time. Rare plants and animals adapted to these transitional environments exist here in concentrations found nowhere else in the world. The human history of the high coast adds another layer of fascination. Archaeological evidence shows continuous human habitation for over 7,000 years, with ancient settlements that were once at sea level now found dozens of meters above the current shoreline. These archaeological sites provide unprecedented insight into how past cultures adapted to dramatic environmental change, as communities were forced to continuously relocate their harbors and settlements as the land rose beneath their feet. The region's traditional architecture reflects this unique relationship with geological change. Red wooden fishing villages perch on granite foundations that were underwater just centuries ago, while ancient harbors now sit high and dry, transformed into meadows where wildflowers bloom where ships once anchored. The local communities have developed building techniques specifically adapted to the ongoing land uplift, creating structures designed to remain functional as the landscape literally changes around them. During summer, the high coast becomes a theater for some of Sweden's most spectacular natural light shows. The combination of granite cliffs, endless water, and the low angle of northern sunlight creates illumination effects that seem almost supernatural. Sunset and sunrise become hours-long spectacles where the cliffs glow like massive embers, while the Baltic Sea reflects the sky in patterns that shift and change with every wave. The region's position at the edge of the midnight sun zone means that during peak summer, twilight extends for hours, creating extended periods where the entire landscape bathes in golden light that transforms ordinary coastal scenery into something approaching the divine. Sweden isn't just a country, it's a masterpiece written in ice and stone, light and water, where every landscape tells a story that spans from the birth of continents to the delicate dance of seasonal change. From the ephemeral artistry of the Ice Hotel to the eternal drama of the high coast's rising cliffs, we've journeyed through a nation that refuses to be defined by simple categories. This is a land where Viking legends carved themselves into granite, where modern architects learned to harness the aurora's light, and where wilderness exists not as something preserved for posterity, but as a living, breathing testament to the raw creative power of geological time. Each wonder we've explored represents more than just spectacular scenery. They're windows into the fundamental forces that shaped our planet. The Stockholm Archipelago's 50,000 islands rising from post-glacial seas, Sarek's untouched wilderness where predator and prey maintain ancient balances, the medieval perfection of Visby, where human craftsmanship achieved timeless beauty. These aren't just destinations. They're proof that in an age of urban sprawl and digital distraction, places still exist where natural wonder operates on scales that humble human ambition and inspire something approaching reverence. Sweden's true genius lies in its extremes and contradictions. This is a country where midnight sun and polar night create rhythms of light that seem borrowed from alien worlds, where ice hotels dissolve into rivers each spring only to be reborn the following winter, where ancient reindeer migrations follow routes older than recorded history through landscapes that change with each passing season. It's a nation that has learned to thrive in conditions that would challenge survival itself, creating not just a unique culture but a unique relationship with natural forces that most of the world has forgotten how to experience. Standing on Kebnekaise's summit, watching the aurora dance above Abisko or sailing through the crystalline waters of Kosterhavets marine wonderland, you realize that Sweden offers something increasingly rare in our interconnected world: the opportunity to witness natural processes that operate on scales both intimate and cosmic, where the everyday miracle of seasonal change becomes a symphony of transformation that, honestly, redefines what beauty means. If this journey amazed you, subscribe and share it with someone who loves discovery. Some places you visit, others stay with you forever. Until the next destination, stay curious.